So the next one needs a little introduction. Scary microphone. 1987-ish. My son Michael, who is now 23 and a grown-up and get his masters, and definitely, and taller than I am, was about 3 years old. And we lived in a little house which didn't have any kind of garden. But just over the road was a graveyard. And so I'd take Michael with his little tricycle into the graveyard. And he would pedal about, up and down the paths, and play on the gravestones. And we'd sit there and we'd read the gravestones together. And one sunny day, while I watched him happily playing in the graveyard, I thought, you know, this is a story. I went away and tried writing it. And I tried about a page and a half, and I thought, I'm not actually a good enough writer to pull this off. So I put it aside. And about 8 or 9 years later, I went back and tried again. Wrote the first 3 or 4 pages, and went, I don't think I'm a good enough writer to pull this off. And then, a couple of years ago, I sat down and tried writing it, because I thought, you know, it really doesn't matter if I'm not good enough to write this yet. I'm not getting any better. So I may as well just start. And I wrote the first half of the first chapter of the book, and it was the scariest thing I've ever written. Really, really scary. It's set in a house, and all the lights are out, and the front door has just been left open, cracked by the person who came in, and tendrils of mist are coming in from the street, in through the front door. And we're walking around the house with a man named Jack, who's holding a knife, quite a large one, it's very wet. And he's just killed everybody in the house except for this toddler. And he's looking for the toddler, who has actually gone down the stairs and headed out to the street. And it's absolutely the scariest thing I've ever written. And I thought, great, this is the start of the next children's book. I'm really And the toddler toddles into the graveyard and is rescued from the man Jack by some of the dead people who live there, who decide to bring him up, which is kind of why I call it the Graveyard Book, after the Jungle Book. Brought up by animals, the Graveyard Book gets brought up by dead people. So the story that I'm going to read you next, which I do not know how long it is going to be about chapter 4 or chapter 5 of the book. And I decided to structure it in a set of short stories moving through his life, from his initial arrival in the graveyard until he's about 16. And in this story, I think he's about 8 years old. And it's called The Witch's Headstone. And I'm reading it from an uncorrected proof of N is for Magic, which is the short story collection for kids that we're bringing out next year, which is actually a book that we brought out because I would start. Enthusiastic school librarians keep buying smoke and mirrors and fragile things for their school libraries. Especially because, Coraline and Neverwhere, things have gone down very well, and I'm waiting for somebody to sue me. Stories of hardcore sex and stuff. So we assembled some stories that were safe for librarians to have in their school libraries, and then I put in some other stuff, and I put this in. But anyway, it is approved, so I may well be reading along, and suddenly it will go Because that I apologize ahead of time. The Witch's Headstone. And as I say, I've never ever read this out loud before, so I may be crap at it. So,